Folks, I'm very happy and pleased to welcome all of you to another edition of our webinar. And today we have a very special guest from a very special company. Right? We have Carlos from Intuitive Surgical. Right? Hi, Carlos, and welcome, and thanks for joining again. Okay. So Carlos joins us from Mexico, and I said it's a very special company, because Intuitive Surgical is a company in the cutting edge of robotic surgery. Right? So they are the world leader in minimally invasive surgery procedures, and we are extremely happy, to have such a purpose-driven company, right, as a customer of ours. And Carlos here, he plays a very important role. He leads the industrial engineering and OpEx team, right? And he's based out of Mexicali in Mexico. So welcome again, Carlos. Thanks for joining us. Maybe you could, Carlos, if it's okay, you could start with a quick introduction of Intuitive Surgical as a company, right? And what do you do, and also about your own role in the company.
Let me first introduce myself, Carlos Anacleto. I'm from Mexicali, Mexico, born and raised in here. I'm a mechanical engineer from school, and I have about 26 years of experience in the industry, 17 of them in the medical industry, actually in Intuitive Surgical. Intuitive Surgical is a company that has designed the Da Vinci system. I hope you all know about it. The robot that helps physicians to perform laparoscopic robotic-assisted surgery. Its headquarters are in Sunnyvale, California, but we have other facilities in Mexico, Germany, and other countries around the world. I can say that the product is state-of-the-art technology, and we have been in the market for 30 years so far and counting. It's dedicated to manufacturing the robotic system with highest consistency and precision. It helps physicians to have a very precise surgery, and it's aiming to optimize the care and help our patients at the hospitals to have a faster and safer recovery. And one of the goals, or the highest one, is to advance what's possible in the minimally invasive care for patients. So that's going to be the introduction of myself and Intuitive. I don't know if we want to talk about how we are doing with your product profit, or should I wait for questions?
Yeah, sure. We'll move on. I'll definitely ask some questions.
Yeah.
So folks, as you can see, this is a company which is really in the cutting edge, right? Robotic and minimally invasive surgery, which means what they are doing is really at the cutting edge of I would say computer science, electronics, mechanical engineering. Right? There are so many moving parts here, and Carlos is from the manufacturing team, specifically industrial engineering. He leads the industrial engineering and the operational excellence team, which means he's pretty familiar with the different strategy execution frameworks. And their manufacturing operation is a huge operation, right? With, I think probably more than 5,000 people across multiple sites, right? So it's a huge and complex operation. And this team provides, the industrial engineering and operational excellence expertise, to really guide the manufacturing aspects. And so we are today, we want to have a conversation with Carlos specifically on, how they go about strategy execution, what framework do they use, what tools do they use, how do they really manage the process, right? Particularly multi-site coordination, across multiple levels. How do they still, make things happen, right? So that's really the theme for today. So probably let me start with this, Carlos. What is the North Star vision of Intuitive Surgical, and how do you communicate that vision across the entire manufacturing operations? How do you go about it?
Yeah, here at Intuitive, we as a company define the mission and vision. Mission, what are we, and what do we do now to achieve what we are, and the vision, which is what we want to become as an organization. And in order to do that, we work on the goal deployment process that we set the set of goals for what we are aiming to do and we want to become, and we communicate this to all the team, to all the sites, to all the managers, to all the engineers. So the North Star is the vision that we have, and it's spread across all of the employees at Intuitive. So we all know what we're going towards.
Okay, that's great. And just out of curiosity, what is your North Star vision, Carlos?
To help patients to have faster recovery and keep being the number one option for robotic surgery.
Okay, that's great. So, with this, I would say pretty inspiring, mission and a North Star statement. How do you really translate that into strategy execution? Like, what sort of framework do you use? Of course, there are multiple frameworks, right? People are familiar with OKRs, balanced scorecard, quite a few frameworks are there. What's the framework that Intuitive uses, Carlos?
Currently, we're using OKRs. We're using objectives and key results. And actually, we are using the platform Profit.co, which is a great tool. It's a great platform that has helped us to have the objectives based on the drivers that we have as a company and define the different results, either leading or lagging, that we need to work on in order to have those objectives be achieved. So we can have an objective, and we can have several key results with several different departments, with several different engineers doing different things, but all of those things aiming to help that specific objective. So it's everything is linked.
Okay, great. And I also heard, Carlos, that you are using Hoshin Kanri as well, right, as a framework in some parts of Intuitive. Maybe can you talk a little bit about it? How long have you been using Hoshin Kanri? How long have you been using OKRs? What has been the experience? Yeah.
Hoshin Kanri, we have been using it since about 10 years ago, and it's a methodology where we have the goals for the company, the primary three to five goals, and based on that, we as a site define what are we going to do, or what are we committing to in order to have those drivers be done. And then it goes to the second level, and we as managers say, okay, what are we going to do with those goals that the site has committed to, in order to help the site help the company. And then our engineers, now they have more detailed key results that will help us achieve what we have committed to the site, help what the site has committed to the headquarters, and so on and so forth. So it's coming from a driver, then becoming objectives, then becoming key drivers, and more key drivers, and more sub-key drivers, things like that. So, and it helps us follow what needs to be done up down to every activity or every task that will help eventually the goals we have committed to, the objectives that we have.
Okay, that's awesome. So and folks, we will have some time for questions, right? So please, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A. We're going to give the last 10 minutes for questions. But if we have some pertinent and questions which need to be answered, we might even answer them during the discussion, right? So please do come with your questions in the Q&A section. Now, as part of the goal setting process, Carlos, how do you really manage the process of, let's say, setting committed and stretch goals, right? How does that, in Hoshin Kanri, they talk about the catchball style dialogue, right? To align and negotiate goals across teams. Can you explain to us, how does that process work in Intuitive? How do you go about it?
Yeah, actually, we started almost at the middle of the year, the second half of the year. When it starts, we go to the headquarters and talk to the CEO or the board of directors. What's the goal for next year? Okay, depending on that goal, a set of drivers are created. These are the main drivers that we have as company. And then, as I mentioned, we as a plant or as a site commit what we're going to do in order to help those drivers. Then we as managers, local managers here at the site, we commit to something, but also we have to go with other managers. Okay, let's see, this is my goal. How are you going to help me to achieve this? And he's going to come to me and ask me, what am I going to collaborate in order for him to also achieve that? So it's a matter of, are we on the right, are we defining the right goals? We all, as a team, work on defining if it's a good goal or not. And we also define how we're going to collaborate. Then we go with our teams and say, this is what we're committing. I need your help on this in order to get it. I need your help on this in order to get it. But also the other managers will come to me and will say, you know what, I need a help from your engineer in order to have this goal that it's for this driver. So we're coming and going with what goals are, what objectives are. And then it takes us like a month or so, and then we get to an agreement, and then we have an offsite meeting in which we present what we have talked about on that catchball process. This is what we are committing to my team, along with the help we're providing to other team in order to get this drivers achieved. So it's us working together, saying what we're going to do for our goals, along with what we're going to help for other teams, what we're going to help them on so that they can also get their goals, and what help do we need in order to do that. So it's coming and going. It's you, then it's me, then it's somebody else, then me again, and we're working like that. So in the end, we have a set of objectives and key results that we have to work on, and that's what we commit to the upper management. This is what we're going to do as a team for next year.
Sure. So you have done your annual planning. You started in the middle of the year, and you're through a process which we call as Catchball in Hoshin Kanri. You have gone through the process. You've done the annual planning. The annual planning is published. Then how do you do you track them, and do you do a check by the end of the quarter, and do you do any fine tuning at a quarterly level, or how does that? I would say the interaction between annual plans and quarterly, your execution plans, how does that happen?
Actually, one of the things that we like about Profit is that it has check-ins, and it can be every quarter, it can be every month, it can be every week. And based on that, we create meetings. For example, if we have the check-in for the quarter, we will go and open Profit and check, okay, what's the progress for each of these objectives or key results? How are we doing? You know what? We're doing well. Then, okay, we check in as we're okay, the progress that the key result has. If we have an issue with one of the key results, then the tool tells us, hey, what's the progress? Something is happening. So then we can talk and define what other path to follows we have to work on. We have to perhaps rework on priorities. We can leverage the resources from another department, but it helps us talk as a team because it's showing us what's coming well and what's not. Where do we need to do something different? But it's there.
Okay, that's awesome. So when you're, let's say executing your annual goals, your quarterly goals, one thing I really wanted to ask is that, as a manufacturing team, you do have continuous improvement initiatives, right? Whether it's Kaizen, Lean, or Six Sigma. How do your continuous improvement initiatives, align with your strategy execution process, right? Whether it is OKRs or Hoshin Kanri, how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we have the goals set for the plant, and based on those is how we define what we need to do. It's not, I want to go do this project just for the sake of doing it. It's got to be linked to one of those drivers. So if we're talking about productivity, then I will make either a green belt or a Kaizen or Lean Six Sigma project that will help me to improve that productivity. So it's got to be addressed at one of the goals that we have. It's not just making things for the sake of making them. It's got to have a purpose, and that purpose is the goal that has been stated.
Okay, that's great. So which means these all of these continuous improvement initiatives can be specific projects which are tied to your key results, right? Or your eventually
Correct.
your Hoshin X matrix, right? So that's how it is done. Which means everything is really aligned towards the company level goal or the manufacturing team level goal, right?
Yeah.
Goals.
Yeah. Actually, in
Okay.
the end, it's gonna be towards what the goals are. We are
Okay.
working towards having those goals achieved.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Now, while you are doing this strategy execution, with OKRs, with Hoshin Kanri, what are the biggest challenges that you see in cross-functional collaboration, right? You have the manufacturing team, you have the, which, takes the vision or takes over from the engineering team and does the execution. And then you have supply chain team, which needs to really enable the manufacturing team, both at the front end as well as at the back end, right? So how do all of these teams, do the cross-functional collaboration, and how does the framework really help with cross-functional collaboration?
Yeah, in the past, challenges that we had were that me as a department, I have my resources and I have my goals and I have my priorities. And I would look for having them achieved first than anything else. Because I didn't have the communication with other teams to see how are we able to work together, or what are we aiming at with this new way of working, way of defining goals. Now we know that it's not only me. If I don't help other managers, other departments to reach their goals, that will affect mine, because now I know that they might affect, then mine is going to be affected. So it's not a matter of just doing what I have to do for me, for my department, but it's also, as we mentioned, the catchball process. What do you need from me and what do I need from you? And let's share resources. Let's combine priorities. Let's combine efforts in order to have a common goal that will help you and will help me.
Right. That's really amazing. So it looks like, everybody has the big picture now, right? Everybody is able to see the forest, not just the trees, and they are able to really, hence contribute, right? They are able to collaborate. So it looks like it has a very positive impact on the culture, right? With collaboration, and overall, just this visibility seems to be really helping all of you. Now, moving on from here, right? In terms of resource allocation and capacity planning, how do you really go about doing it, right? Specifically, using this framework as well as through cross-functional collaboration, how do you really go about doing resource allocation as well as capacity planning for the manufacturing aspects?
Yeah, okay, we look at the set of key results that we have, and based on those, we define what's going to be done when, and based on that is when we say we have the need of these resources. We have our resources, and we assign those key results to each of them, and we also work on priorities. So it's not just a matter of getting more resources, but it's a matter of how to manage the different priorities that we have, so that we can get the most out of our resources. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of very, very interesting questions which have come up. We'll come to that in a moment, right? I'll probably ask you a couple of more questions, and then we'll go to there's at least one interesting audience question I wanted to address. Now, as you are executing, right, you have your annual plan, you are executing quarter by quarter, doing regular check-ins. Now, there could be some unexpected challenges, right? There could be, we all knew about the supply chain issues which happened during COVID, right? Either that, or that sometimes there could be regulatory changes, right? External policy environment, something changes. How agile is the execution process? How do you really respond, to all of that, as part of your strategy execution?
Yeah, we have regular meetings at least once a quarter to review how the progress of the objectives and key results are. And based on that, we can see, hey, this is not coming up as we wanted to. Then we have to go and review what happened with it. And the good thing is that we're going to have the check-ins from the previous check-in. We're going to have the info of those check-ins, and we can realize, okay, this is something that it's out of our hands. I don't know, a supplier stopped providing the product that it was providing us. So we need to look for another one. We know that goal is, or that key result is not going to be done because of that. So we as a team work on priorities and say, you know what, this is going to take us more time. Okay, we have another project right after it. So let's find a way to move one backwards or move it ahead. And this one, let's put it on the list so that we can work on that supplier and work around the problem, and then have that one solved along with the one that we moved ahead, so that we don't lose at the end of the year. We don't lose the goals, but it was a way of managing which one goes first, depending on difficulties or challenges that came up.
Got it. Okay. So there are at least, probably about 4 questions now, right? We will try to take, as many as possible. So there's a question by Elias on the chat, right? So Elias is asking, I think I would say it's, to summarize, it's about, I want to understand PMP, black belt, green belt, do they help in performance management, right? So essentially, it looks like he wants to know about, performance management, right? I think it's probably coming from a people management perspective, right? So all of the strategy execution, right? Frameworks, whatever you're using, how are they actually being used? Are they being used for employee performance management, right? Are both only for business performance management, or employee and business performance management, right? So he is really coming from that angle, probably from a HR angle, and he's asking, are you using it that way? And are there any use cases, insights that you can actually share?
Okay, we used the objectives and key results. Sorry to mention them often, but that's what we're working with Profit. We have the objectives, we have the key results up to the different levels, and we have assigned departments, and we have people assigned as responsible owners of those specific goals. So at the end of year, we can say, okay, these are your activities, goals, or your plan for the year. How much of it have you been able to achieve? And based on that, we do that performance review. One of the things we're starting this year is, because we know that in Profit we have that capability, is to start using the capability of Profit for defining the performance reviews at the end of year. It will help us because we have all of the information of the objectives, the goals, and the sub tasks that we have. And the program has the ability to tell us at the end of the year what's the actual performance of each of our employees. Whether it's a manager, whether it's an engineer, it will tell us at the end of the year.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So Elias, hope you got the answer. I think just to summarize, they're actually using it for continuous performance management, right? They're obviously using it for business performance, but they're also starting to use for employee performance management, primarily as a continuous performance tool, right? And it's a company with great culture, so performance really happens on a continuous basis, right? And it's really something where the tool is actually used, right? I'm going to come to the usage of the tool in a moment, and then we will take the other questions as well.
Yeah, I have seen two questions, if I may, if I'm allowed to answer, regarding how long have taken my team or the team at the site to adopt OKRs. It's been about a little more than 2 years, because it was more trying to convert what we had in Hoshin Kanri into the platform, and getting used to the platform, getting used to it, getting used to the check-ins. It was more our way of educating into it. It's easy to follow, but it was more on us to get used to the check-ins, get used to reporting in a system, in a platform like this. But I could say now that it's running smoothly. You will adapt to it. It's user friendly, and it helped us a lot in order to present what has been done, rather than spending hours and hours doing a PowerPoint presentation. It will tell you what's been done. this is what we're doing, and you can tell where are you now and where are you looking to be, and it will tell you if you're going to be able to do it or you have to work on something else in order to overcome what might put it at risk. If you're starting with the OKR journey, be patient. It's education to the team. It could be, you can use any platform, but I would recommend Profit, but it's more educating us as a team. Be ready to train your team. Be ready to educate them in order to work towards having goals and objectives and key results and a way to follow up and report. Communicate. It's good when everybody knows what we're doing, what we're aiming at, and we will point at it together. But it's educating us as a team.
Yeah, that's great. So probably just as a follow-up to that question, you said it has taken 2 years for the process to reach a stage where you are very comfortable with that. Whether any challenges? Is it? I know it's not just the tool adoption, but in terms of following, let's say, the OKR process, right? Did you come across any challenges on the way, Carlos?
Yeah, in using Profit, for example, I mentioned it's education. It's going into the system and actually write down the progress and think of that progress and say, okay, this is where I am, and state it exactly. That it's part of a culture that you gotta get used to do it. Get used to it. You can forget it, and it's like, hey, we're reviewing and we don't have your input here. And going with people, hey, you have to do it. That's a challenge. It improves because they started learning that they have to do it, and it's easier for them because now the manager knows, because he can get into Profit and see the progress. But it was a challenge at the beginning because of getting used to it.
Okay.
Not sure if I really answered the question, but
yeah. I think you definitely answered the question. And there's a question from Sherry, right? Sherry wants to know. It's on the webinar chat, right? Does Intuitive use any integrations with Profit? And for example, do they by chance use a Profit plugin with something such as Jira? And I can probably take the first shot in answering, and then you can add that. So Sherry, they have integrated with Teams, right? They've done obviously the single sign-on. They've integrated with Teams, I believe. This will help in engagement and alerts and notifications for people to do the check-ins. Specifically, this team doesn't use Jira. There are other teams which use Jira, and I think we will answer that offline with you. Yeah, but definitely, that's a great question. Now, going forward, Carlos, just a couple of more questions specifically on engaging the team, right? Engaging the team, making sure that the team is aligned. There are a few things I wanted to really ask. One, the manufacturing teams typically have very specific goals, right? Somebody's working on quality, somebody's working on making sure that the output is out, right? Somebody is really working on supplier management. How do you keep all these teams aligned with the big picture strategic goals, right? How does that happen? Zooming out and doing the connect with the strategic goals.
in a word, communication.
Okay.
People feel frustrated when they don't know what the purpose of their job is. Why am I doing this? Whether it's an employee at the shop floor or an engineer, even an engineer, what's the purpose of my work? So what we do with the goal setting process, after the Catchball, after we have the agreement, what we do is we make a session with all of the people, with all primarily the managers and engineers and the team at the shop floor, and these are the drivers, these are the objectives, and these are the key results that we're all working on. So whatever you do here will help this key result, which once it's achieved, it will help this goal. And once this goal is achieved, it will help that driver that the company stated at the beginning as part of the strategy. So they know what they're doing, and they know primarily why they are doing it. So it gives them purpose. So now I know
Yeah.
what I'm doing, so I can do it motivated or
Yeah.
more
I
engaged
think,
or
sorry. Yeah.
go
So I
ahead.
think the importance of communication, I think you stressed a lot. You have stressed a lot. Absolutely true. Particularly considering that, this is a company with, just in manufacturing alone, 5,000 plus people in multiple sites, multiple countries. Everybody needs to, work in a very aligned way, right? That's amazing. Now, is this process primarily top down, or is there a bottom up element as well, right? Do the frontline workers and managers, do they understand, how they are contributing to the strategic objectives, right? I know communication, really helps a lot, but even during the planning process, is there a bottom up element? How does that work in intuitive
Yeah,
commerce?
for example, when I work on my goals that will help the site, I will go with my team and say, okay, this is what we need to work on. What are your inputs? What do you think we can do? What are you proposing? And we together as a team work on all the commitments, all the expectations. We know the expectations, get agreements, commitments, and then move on. So they are involved in the process. They are deciding what we as a team will do. It's not just this is the goal and you have to do this, and that. No, it's what we as a team will do in order to achieve that goal. They are the experts,
Great.
not myself. So they are taken into account.
Okay, great. So which means definitely there's a enablement and there is an absolute involvement of the frontline team in contributing to the goal setting process, right? That's what I understand. That's amazing. Now you have referred multiple times, about the tool that you're using, Profit.co that you're using for tracking your projects, KPIs, right, execution in every aspect, and even for employee performance management you're using. So can you explain what has been your experience in terms of onboarding, adoption, and then execution now that you are 2 years into using Profit.co? What has been the experience? What are the highs and lows of using a tool?
Yeah. I could say that talking about the platform, I like it that it's way super structured. I like it that it manages the way I like it, and the site likes it. We have objectives and what derives from that. So it tells me what's needed in order to achieve that goal, and then it derives into more different levels that will eventually cascade up in order to get that goal done. So it's a structure. It's a tree of different levels of things that need to be done. So, and they are linked together, and we can have more than one branch, and they're linked in order to help. Uh, it's easier for me to see also what other people is doing, because you can see the whole list of activities, the whole list of goals, not just from my team, but also for other teams, and know how they're doing and see how they're keeping up with what needs to be done. It also helps us on doing those check-ins that help us to remember that, hey, I need to mention what's my priorities. I need to let the team know what my priority is, so I will go on and do it. It will have those reminders. When we present the results, it's a better way to do it. It tells exactly what we're done. We don't spend hours doing a PowerPoint with lots of graphics. It's more straight to the point. This is what has been done, and this is what's not. And then we can talk about what we need to do in order to put it back on track. It has graphs that tells you the progress, and it tells you what department is participating more than others, where we need to, what department we need to talk to in order to either help them if they're having trouble, or how do we make them speed up to get back on track, things like that. So it has lots of features that I like about it. Another feature is that I can see it everywhere. It's not an app that I have to have in my computer. I can see it whenever I have a browser. That's a huge advantage. And it's right there. The information is right there. So I have it with me every time, wherever I go. I can tell you what the goals are, what the purpose is, and the like. So
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Carlos. So, Carlos, overall, something in terms of the tangible benefits, probably a last question before I go to, we will take one more audience question and before we wind this discussion. But one, now you are 2 years into using OKRs, right, with Profit.co. Are there any tangible, let's say, benefits that you have received as an organization, right? Are there any measurable improvements that you are seeing, better goal execution or, reduction of cycle time or better accountability? How has the, platform and the OKR process, how have they really helped you? Anything that you can share from your experience?
I can tell you that it has affected in a positive way all of our numbers here at the plant, whether you want to talk about yields, you want to talk about money, you want to talk about earnings. I cannot tell to what extent, but I can tell you it has had effect because when you have a goal of reducing 5% on scrap plant-wise, it will help you keep track on that. And at the end, you will have that 5 or even more because you have the people thinking about it and looking for it and doing what they have to do in order to get it. So you will have the 5% scrap reduction at the end of the year. They owned the goals they have, and they also push you to do your job because your job is also affecting them. So it has also helped on the teamwork and the relation between the different departments. How do we help each other? Because by helping you, I'm also helping me. And it has helped us to reach, I don't know, at least 95% of the goals that we had, because it doesn't allow you to forget what you have to do. So you have it in mind, you have it there, you have it there. It sends you reminders. So you're forced to achieve the goals, to complete them.
Yeah,
If
I
that
think, I
makes
think
sense.
if I can, yeah, those are amazing points that you mentioned, Carlos. And if I may add, it really helps. While the tool absolutely provides you great visibility, it provides you a great framework for you to check in, review progress. But I would say, in addition to all of that, the fact that you and your team have a great culture of tracking the check-ins, doing the reviews regularly, and doing executive presentations based on, just using the tool and doing executive presentations about how you are actually executing. And the most important thing which you mentioned, which is, the goal is right there, visible, and everybody is looking at it week after week, right? And they need to contribute to it, right? And they can see. And that's really, really resulting in, some of those benefits that you mentioned. Now, we have an audience member, Sakti. He has some questions, right? And I'll probably, and these are product related questions, I can just answer them. And please feel free to add. First, Sakti, and OKRs versus balanced scorecard, I would say it's sort of outside the scope of this discussion today, right? Unless Carlos wants to answer it, but it's sort of not really part of the scope today. But some of your other questions, yes, OKRs, definitely has a very clear framework in terms of objectives and key results. And incidentally, we have materials on all of your questions. We will absolutely share them with you. OKRs has a well-defined hierarchy, right? Company level, department level, sub-department level. You can really cascade it down, right? And we're using Profit.co, we can easily do that. And of course, the business workflow itself, if you need multiple level of approvals, whether it is for OKR planning or OKR check-in, right, you can enable, right? Some companies like to do a little friction-free process where, you don't need to have approvals for everything, whereas in some companies you need, they may need approvals for aligning, right, your key result with somebody else, right? So you can, the product is very flexible. You can absolutely configure in whichever way you want, right? And if you have any additional questions on the product, we'll be happy to answer them, and let's go from there. Yeah. So I think we have really covered a lot of ground today, and folks, if you have any, I think we have answered most of the questions. So Carlos, I would really like to thank you. And again, this is a very, very complex operation, right? From whatever I know, and the fact that you are executing, with a framework, with a tool, and I would say probably the most important ingredient is that you have a great process, right, for execution and a great culture of execution, right? So I think you really brought out a lot of those amazing insights. We would like to thank you again for coming and sharing your insights. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Sure.
We'll make this recording available in YouTube. Okay. Thank you.